Welcome to the video tutorial for just one of those things, the 8th pattern in the Stardust Melodies Crochet Along series. I'm Polly and I'll be your host. If you'd like more information about the Crochet Along, please visit everytrickonthehook.com or Every Trick on the Hook on Facebook. For this video, I'll be using Aran weight yarn and a 5.5mm crochet hook. Let's get started. We'll begin by making a magic circle, or as I like to make, a double magic circle. To make a double magic circle, take the yarn and wrap it around your fingers twice. Insert your hook into the loops and pull up a loop of yarn. Hold the circle securely and tighten the loop around your hook, and then chain 1 to secure your magic circles. Now you can make your round 1 stitches. To make round 1, single crochet into the magic circles and then chain 2. Do that a total of 4 times. Single crochet into the magic circles and chain 2. Single crochet in the magic circles, chain 2. One more time, single crochet in the magic circles and chain 2. That's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now to close the magic circles, we are going to first find our yarn end and then untangle it if it's twisted at all, so to make sure it comes out of the top nice and straight, and then we'll pull on it just slightly to see which one of the loops begins to close. See how this loop right here got smaller? That's the loop we want to address first. So I'm going to pinch the smaller loop at the top, and then I'm going to pull on it until the larger loop closes all the way. Then I'm going to go back to my yarn end and pull on that until the last loop closes. Now I can complete round 1 by making a slip stitch into both loops of that very first single crochet that we made. Make a slip stitch, and then I'll pull my slip stitch nice and tight, and that is round 1. To make round 2, I'll begin by chaining 1. After I do that, I'm going to single crochet in the back loop only of the very first stitch. The first stitch is the single crochet that I slip stitched to close round 1. So I'm going to insert my hook under just the back loop and pull up a loop to make a single crochet. And that's my very first stitch. After that comes the chain 2 space. In the chain 2 space, I'm going to make a corner. I'm going to make a single crochet into the chain 2, and then a chain 2, and then a single crochet. That makes our corner, and that's the corner we're going to use throughout the entire pattern. After I do that, I'm at the next single crochet, and I'm going to single crochet into the back loop only of this stitch. So just under the back loop, make a single crochet. Then I'm at another chain 2 space, so I'm going to make another corner. In the chain 2, single crochet, chain 2, and make another single crochet in the same space. Now I'm at the next stitch, under the back loop only, make a single crochet. In the next chain 2 space, again we'll do another corner, so single crochet, chain 2, and another single crochet, all in the same space. Now I'm at the last stitch, and into this last single crochet, under the back loop only, I'll make one more single crochet. Now I'm at the last chain 2 space, and I'll make my last corner with a single crochet, chain 2, and single crochet. To join round 2, I'll slip stitch to both loops of the very first single crochet. Make a slip stitch and then pull it nice and tight. If you have trouble finding that very first stitch, picking out which 2 loops to slip stitch to, at the very beginning of the round, take a stitch marker and place it under both of those 2 loops so that it makes it easier to find. Do that for every round if you have trouble picking out which 2 loops to make your slip stitch to, and it'll make it much easier. And that is round 2. To make round 3, begin by making a chain 1 and into the very first stitch, the one we slip stitched to in round 2. In the very first stitch, under the back loop only, make a single crochet. After that, if you're looking at the written instructions, they say to single crochet in the back loop only of each stitch across to the corner, and in this case there's just one stitch. So in the back loop only, single crochet in the next stitch, and that takes you to your corner. In the chain 2 space, we're going to make our standard corner of single crochet, chain 2, and another single crochet. Now across this side, we are going to single crochet in the back loop only of each stitch. So under each stitch, single crochet in the back loop only. And now we're going to do that all the way around. So repeat that section 2 more times. So in the next corner, single crochet, chain 2, and single crochet in the back loop only of each stitch across the side. Now let's repeat one more time. In the corner, single crochet, chain 2, and single crochet again, and then single crochet in the back loop only of each stitch across this next side. And then in the last corner, single crochet, chain 2, and single crochet again. Now there's just one stitch left on that very first side. We'll single crochet in the back loop only of that one stitch, and then slip stitch to both loops of your very first single crochet of round 3, slip stitch, pull that nice and tight, and that joins our round 3, and round 3 is complete. To make round 4, we'll start with a chain 1, and we're going to single crochet in the back loop only of the first 2 stitches. So that very first stitch, the one that has the slip stitch from round 3, under the back loop only, make a single crochet. In the next stitch, under the back loop only, make a single crochet. So there we did 2 single crochets, or a single crochet in the back loop only of each of the first 2 stitches. After that, we are going to double crochet in the front loop only of the stitch that is 2 rounds below and 2 stitches behind our next stitch. So here's our next stitch right here. We're going to have to count. This stitch is a corner stitch, so it's on the very end, so it's kind of hard to count down rows, rounds down. So let's count backwards first. Here's our first stitch, our next stitch. 1 stitch behind, 2 stitches behind is what we said. And now let's go 2 rounds below. These horizontal bars here represent each round. So here's 1 round below and 2 rounds below. This is the stitch from round 1, so it's the front loop only of the round 1 stitch. That front loop only is where we're going to insert our hook, just like that, and we're going to make our double crochet into that front loop only. So I'm going to yarn over, and under that front loop only, insert my hook and pull up a loop. Now the trick here is, if I were to make this double crochet regular, it's not quite long enough to reach where we're at. So what we're going to do, let me do this again. What we're going to do here, actually, yarn over once, insert my hook, and pull up a loop to make my double crochet. At this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the yarn up to the height of my work. So I'm just going to hold the square right about here and gently pull the yarn up. See, these loops are extending? And now it's about the height of my work. You can kind of feel this one out. It's sort of an intuitive process. There's no way to tell you exactly how high that you should pull this yarn. Fortunately, in this square, it's pretty easy. That's why we're doing it first, so that we can have some practice with this idea before we do it in other squares. So pull that yarn up until it's roughly the height of your work, and then go ahead and treat it just like a regular double crochet. So yarn over and pull through 2 loops, and then yarn over, pull through 2 loops again. So you'll see it's just like a double crochet, but this lower section of it is very long. So it's stretched down a little, it's reached a much lower stitch. this section is long, and it gives us this sort of stringy sort of texture with these long lines of yarn. So that's what we're going to do all the way around. That stitch represents the stitch that would go right in front of this last stitch. So this one counts as work. So our very next stitch to make is actually into the chain 2 space. We'll make our corner with a single crochet, chain 2, and single crochet again. And the very first stitch of our next side is going to be a double crochet into the front loop only of the stitch that is 2 stitches ahead and 2 rounds below our next stitch. So here's our next stitch, and if we were to count 1, 2 stitches ahead and 1, 2 rounds below, that puts us at the round 1 single crochet. There's only one, so it's really easy to pick out. This round 1 single crochet is this horizontal bar right here is the front loop. That's where we're going to put our next double crochet. So I'll show you how to do this double crochet again. We'll yarn over once and insert our hook under that front loop only. Pull up a loop just like we were going to make a regular double crochet, but at this point now we're going to pull our yarn until our yarn is long enough that our hook is just about at the height of our work. See how it sort of is right there at the height of that first single crochet we made? Okay, now let's complete our double crochet. There you go. So there's a double crochet pulled up to the height of your work. Now into the next stitch, so that first stitch counts as worked by the double crochet because it's right in front of it. In the next stitches, we're going to single crochet in the back loop only of the next 3 stitches. So here's 1, 2, and 3. Should put us at the very last stitch of the side, and in front of that stitch we're going to make another double crochet. So yarn over once. This double crochet you don't need to count, it goes right into the same stitch as the last one of this side, so you can just identify where that stitch is worked. It's right there, but we're going to come at it from below. You may need to fold your work over a little bit so that you can insert your hook in that same front loop but from below. Pull up a loop just like for a regular double crochet, and then pull that yarn until it's just about the height of your work. Then complete your double crochet as usual. Now we'll make our next corner, and I will show you that all the way around. So that's single crochet, chain 2, single crochet in the corner. Now we'll go ahead and do the last 2.5 sides so you can see. I'm going to yarn over and into that round 1 stitch just under the front loop only of that round 1 stitch. Pull up a loop for my double crochet and pull it to the height of my work, and then complete it just like a regular double crochet. Then single crochet in the back loop only of the next 3 stitches, and then I'm going to make another double crochet for this last stitch into the same front loop, pull that loop up to the height of my work, complete my double crochet. Another corner, so single crochet, chain 2, single crochet in the corner. Okay, now another double crochet into that front loop only of the round 1 stitch. Pull my yarn up to the height of my work and finish my double crochet. And then single crochet in the back loop only the next 3 stitches. There's 1 stitch left before the corner, so now another double crochet into the same front loop only as the last one. Under that front loop, pull up a loop and then pull the loop to the height of my work and finish my double crochet. Then my last corner. Alright, 1 more double crochet on this last side, and it's going to go into the same loop as that very first double crochet. So just under that same front loop only is where I'm going to make my next double crochet, my last one. Pulling it up to the height of my work and then completing it. And then all I have left is 1 single crochet in the back loop only, that very last stitch, and then I can slip stitch to the front, the top 2 loops of that very first single crochet and pull it tight. And that is round 4. To make round 5, we'll begin by making a chain 1 and a single crochet in the back loop only of the very first stitch. Single crochet in the back loop only of the very first stitch. Okay, now what we're going to do is double crochet in the front loop only of the stitch 2 rounds below and 1 stitch behind our next stitch. So here's our next stitch, but this double crochet is sort of in the way of counting. So we can either go backwards and we can count 1 stitch backwards and then 2 rounds below, but it's kind of hidden there too. So what I recommend doing is sort of pulling these double crochets down a bit so that you can see what's there. We counted 1 stitch backwards and 2 rounds below, and that's the stitch where you want to make your double crochet. When you yarn over, insert my hook under that loop. You can also note that this is the loop exactly 1 stitch above the loop we worked the 2 double crochets into in the last round, so you don't even really need to count. You can just sort of pull these down and identify the loop right above it. Just be careful that you get the right one. You don't want to work into the round above it because we're going to work into that one in the next round, so that needs to stay open. So you have to make sure that it's this round 2 front loop only that's immediately above the round 1 front loop only that we worked into last round. So once you know you've got the right loop, insert your hook under that loop only and pull up a loop to make your double crochet. We're going to do the same thing we did last round where we pulled the yarn up to the height of our work. So the first one's a little bit tricky, so you can eyeball it, make it look just about like these ones did when you pulled them up, and then complete your double crochet. It's okay if it's a little bit big, it'll just be a little bit puffier. You don't want it too small because then it'll pull your work down a little bit. But we're only doing a few of these in this round and in this square. We're only doing a few of these double crochets that are pulled up to the height of our work. So if you don't get them perfect, it's going to be okay. There's going to be plenty of wiggle room in this square. We're just doing a few at the beginning to try it out and get the idea for later squares. Okay, so after you've done this double crochet, the next thing you want to do is single crochet in the back loop only of the next 2 stitches. The very next stitch is this double crochet, so it's easy to find. Back loop only, single crochet 1 and 2, and that should take you right to your corner where you can make your typical single crochet, chain 2, single crochet. Now let's look at a full side of round 5. The very first thing we do is single crochet in the back loop only of the first 2 stitches. 1, 2. Now we're going to make more double crochets in a similar manner. So I'm going to yarn over, and I can count this one out by going, this is my next stitch. I'm going to go 1 stitch ahead and 2 rounds below. And that one is hidden behind these, so pull them down so I can see. Or you can count upwards. I know this front loop is the one that I worked these double crochets into, so the one immediately above it is the one I want for this round. So either way, I'm going to insert my hook under that front loop only and pull up a loop for my double crochet. Then I'm going to pull it up to the height of my work, right about there, and complete my double crochet. Next, I'm going to single crochet in the back loop only of the next stitch, which is the very, very middle stitch. And I'm going to make another double crochet into the very same loop as the last one. So I don't need to count this time. It's this loop right here. I'm going to make another double crochet that I'm going to pull up to the height of my work and then complete it. Now I'm going to single crochet in the back loop only of the next 2 stitches. And then I'm at my corner, so I'll make my corner. We'll take another look at that. So here's a full side of round 5. We did our corner, then we single crocheted in the back loop only of the first 2 stitches. Then we double crocheted in the front loop only of the stitch that was 1 stitch ahead and 2 rounds below our next stitch. Or we counted up, here's the loop that we worked our double crochets into in the last round. We counted 1 loop up. We just sort of moved these double crochets out of the way, and we counted the loop right above that one, and we worked into that front loop only a double crochet that we pulled up to the height of our work before we completed it. Then we did a single crochet in the back loop only of the very middle stitch, and then we did another double crochet, pulled up to the height of our work in the exact same loop as the previous one, and then we finished up the side with 2 single crochets in the back loop only of those last 2 stitches and another corner. So go ahead and do that 1 and 2 more times on the next 2 sides, and I'll show you how to wrap up this last side of round 5. To finish up the last side of round 5, we're going to make our last corner in the last chain 2 space a single crochet, chain 2, and another single crochet. Next we're going to single crochet in the back loop only of the next 2 stitches, and our very last stitch is going to be a double crochet made into the exact same loop as the very first double crochet that we made. So we can find that double crochet, find the loop it's made into, it's right there, insert our hook under the same loop, and then we can pull it up to the height of our work and complete the double crochet. After that, we can slip stitch to both loops of the very first single crochet to join our round, pull that nice and tight, and that is round 5. In round 6, we'll start by making a chain 1, and our very first stitch is going to be a double crochet made into the front loop only of the stitch 2 rounds below our first stitch. So you might want to pull these stitches apart slightly so that you can see. Here's the one round below, and then in here, tucked behind these double crochets, is the front loop only of the stitch 2 rounds below. So under that front loop only, it's easier to just do it than it is to show it. Under that front loop only, we're going to make a double crochet that we pull up to the height of our work, just like we did in the last 2 rounds. So just 1 double crochet made into that front loop only of the stitch 2 rounds below, and then pulled up to the height of our work. Now I'm going to change things up on you. We're going to single crochet in the next 3 stitches, but we're going to do it in both loops. So not back loop only, but both loops of the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and 3. You should have 1 stitch left on this side, and into that stitch you're going to single crochet in the back loop only. So that was 3 single crochets into both loops, just standard single crochets made into both top loops of each stitch, and then a single crochet made into the back loop only of that last stitch of the side. Now let's make our corner just like always, single crochet, chain 2, and single crochet. And now we'll look at a whole side of round 6. The very first thing you do is single crochet in the back loop only of the first stitch. Just 1 into the back loop only. Now single crochet into both loops of the next 3 stitches. Both loops, 1, 2, and 3 should be made into the double crochet from the last round. And you should have just that middle single crochet as your next stitch. Now we're going to double crochet in the front loop only of the stitch 2 rounds below the next stitch. Here's my next stitch. You can kind of see there's the 1 round below it. If I pull these apart, I can find the front loop only of the 2 rounds below it. So under that front loop only, insert my hook, pull up a loop, pull it to the height of my work, and then complete my double crochet. Next, single crochet in both loops of the next 3 stitches. So 1 into both loops, 2, and 3. There's 1 stitch left on this side, and into the back loop only make a single crochet. And then you should be at your corner, and you can make your standard corner again. And then we'll look at what we did. So here's round 6, a full side of round 6. We did our corner, like always. In the very first stitch of the side, we did a single crochet in the back loop only. Then we did 3 single crochets into both loops of the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, in the next 3 stitches, both loops. Then we did a double crochet in the front loop only of the stitch 2 rounds below the next stitch, and we had to pull that double crochet up to the height of our work to complete it. We found the loop by sort of moving the double crochets from the previous round, spreading them, and finding the front loop we needed that was kind of tucked behind them. Then we single crocheted in both loops of the next 3 stitches. There's 1 stitch left on the side. We single crocheted in the back loop only of the last stitch of the side. That is a complete side of round 6. Go ahead and do that 1 and 2 more times on the next 2 sides, and I'll show you how to finish up this last side. To finish round 6, we'll make our last corner in the last chain 2 space, single crochet, chain 2, oops, and another single crochet. Single crochet in the back loop only of the very next stitch, and then wrap up this side by single crocheting in both loops of the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and 3 into both loops. And then we'll slip stitch to both loops of the first double crochet to join it, pull the slip stitch tight, and that is round 6. For round 7, we'll start with a chain 1, and our very first stitch is going to be a treble 2 together. And I'll show you how to work the legs for this treble 2 together. So the first leg is going to be in the stitch that is 2 rounds below and 3 stitches behind our next stitch. So here's our next stitch. It's actually easier to count behind. Here's our next stitch. Don't count the slip stitch. Make sure you don't count the slip stitch. So 1 stitch behind is this single crochet right here, 2 and 3 stitches behind. Then we're going to count 2 rounds down. Now this might be tricky because we made this stitch into both loops, so you can't actually see the horizontal bar there, but it's right there. That's 1 round below, and this is 2 rounds below. So you can count it out like that, but I'm actually going to show you that the stitch we're working each leg into is the single crochet just on the outside of these round 4 double crochets. So what you can do is identify the 2 round 4 double crochets, the ones on the bottom, and the front loop only of those double crochets. It's the single crochet just on the outside of that. There's only 1 stitch on the outside of those round 4 double crochets, so it's pretty easy to identify that front loop only is the one we want our first leg to go into. And then on the other side of that, of round 4, here's the double crochet, and here's the single crochet just on the outside of it. That's where the second leg of our treble 2 together is going to go. So you really don't need to count out your stitches on this round. You can place them that way. Just find those double crochets and work in the single crochets on the outsides of them. So for our stitch, we're going to treble, so yarn over twice, insert your hook into, you might need to bend your work. The first one's always the hardest, so bend your work however you need to. Insert your hook under the front loop only of that single crochet that we picked out. Then you pull up a loop, and then you don't need to pull this one up to the height of your work. We're going to make this normal. So yarn over and pull through 2 loops on your hook twice. Again, the first one is always the hardest. Okay, there we go. And there's your first leg. Now yarn over twice, insert your hook under that next single crochet. So here's the bottom double crochet and the single crochet on the outside of it under that front loop only, and pull up a loop. Yarn over and pull through 2 loops twice, and then yarn over and pull through all 3 loops for your treble 2 together. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is single crochet in both loops of the next 3 stitches. So let's bend this forward so we can sort of see behind it. It's hard to do on the first one. There we go. Okay, there's our first stitch. So the treble 2 together counts as working into that stitch. The next 3 stitches will work single crochets into both loops. So 1, 2, and 3. Should be 2 stitches left on the side, and into those 2 stitches we'll single crochet in the back loop only. 1 and 2 in the back loop only. Now we're at our corner, So make a standard corner, single crochet, chain 2, and single crochet. Now let's look at a full side of round 7. The first thing we're going to do is single crochet in the back loop only of the first 2 stitches. That's 1 and 2. Now we're going to single crochet in the both loops of the next 3 stitches. So both loops, single crochet 1, 2, and 3. And the very next stitch should be that middle double crochet. Now we're going to make a treble 2 together, and we're going to place the legs of this treble the same way that we did the last one. So I'm going to identify my round 4 double crochets, and let's see, there's the front loop only of that one. So this loop right here is the single crochet just on the outside, and there's the front loop only of this round 4 double crochet. So this front loop only is where the second leg of my treble 2 together goes. Okay, so now I can make my stitch. I know where I'm working into, so I'm yarning over twice. Here's that front loop only, so underneath it, and pull up a loop, then yarn over and pull through 2 loops twice. Then yarn over twice, find my next one. Here's the double crochet, here's the next stitch. Under that front loop, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops twice, and then yarn over and pull through the last 3 loops. There's my treble 2 together. Now I'm going to single crochet in both loops of the next 3 stitches. Here's my next stitch. 1, 2, and 3. And then single crochet in the back loop only of the next 2 stitches. 1 and 2. And then I'm at my corner, so I can make my corner again. And now we'll look at what we did. So full side of round 7. We made our corner, and then we single crocheted in the back loop only of the first 2 stitches. Back loop only of the first 2 stitches. Then we single crocheted in both loops of the next 3 stitches. Then we made our treble crochet 2 together. The first leg we placed in this single crochet, the single crochet on the outside of the round 4 double crochet, or you can count, it's 3 stitches behind your next stitch and 2 rounds below. We place the second leg of the treble crochet 2 together in this single crochet on the outside of this round 4 double crochet, or you can count 3 stitches ahead and 2 rounds below. Then we did 3 single crochets in both loops of the next 3 stitches, and then we did 2 single crochets in the back loop only of the last 2 stitches and another corner. That's a full side of round 7. Go ahead and make that again on this side and this side, and I'll show you how to finish up. To finish round 7, we'll make our last corner in the chain 2 space, single crochet, chain 2, and single crochet again in the chain 2 space. Then we will single crochet in the back loop only of the first 2 stitches, and then single crochet in both loops of the last 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and 3 in both loops. Then we can slip stitch to both loops of the very first treble 2 together. Slip stitch, pull it nice and tight, and that is it for round 7. Round 8 begins somewhat differently from our other rounds. We'll begin by chaining 2. So chain 1, 2. And we're going to skip the very first stitch, that treble 2 together. We're going to skip the very first stitch, and into the next stitch we'll single crochet in both loops. And we'll do that 3 times. So 1 single crochet in both loops, 2, and 3. 3 single crochets in both loops. After that, we're going to make a half treble. We're going to make it into the front loop only of the stitch 2 rounds below the next stitch. So to make our half treble, yarn over twice, then count 2 rounds below our next stitch. Here's our next stitch. 1 round below is this bar, and 2 rounds below is this bar. So under that front loop only, and pull up a loop. To make the half treble, yarn over and pull through 2 loops, and then yarn over and pull through 3 loops. Next, single crochet in the back loop only of the next 2 stitches. 1, 2. That should put you at your corner. In the corner, single crochet, chain 2, and single crochet as usual. Alright, let's look at a full side of round 8. We'll start by single crocheting in the back loop only of the next 2 stitches. Here's our very next stitch. 1 in the back loop only, 2 in the back loop only. Now we'll half treble in the front loop only of the stitch 2 rounds below. So yarn over twice for a half treble. Here's our next stitch. 1 round below, 2 rounds below is this bar right here. In that front loop only, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 3 loops for your half treble. The next step is to single crochet in both loops of the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and 3. The next stitch should be your treble 2 together. Chain 1 and skip the treble 2 together. Single crochet in both loops of the 3 stitches after the treble 2 together. So both loops, 1, 2, 3. Now half treble in the front loop only of the stitch 2 rounds below. So yarn over twice for a half treble. Here's our next stitch. Here's 1 round below and 2 rounds below. Under that front loop only, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 3 loops for a half treble. Finally, single crochet in the back loop only of the last 2 stitches of the side. That should put you at your corner. I'll make my corner like usual, and then we'll look at what we did. Okay, so here's a full side of round 8. We made our corner, then we single crocheted in the back loop only of the first 2 stitches. Then we made a half treble in the front loop only of the stitch 2 rounds below the next stitch. Then we made 3 single crochets into both loops. We made a chain 1 and we skipped the treble 2 together. Then we made single crochets in both loops of the next 3 stitches. Then we made a half treble in the front loop only of the stitch 2 rounds below the next stitch. Then we made our last 2 stitches of the side, which were 2 single crochets in the back loop only of those last 2 stitches, and another corner. So that is a full side of round 8. Go ahead and repeat that on this side, and I'll see you back over here to show you how to finish up this last side of round 8. To finish round 8, we'll make our last corner in that last chain 2 space, single crochet, chain 2, and another single crochet. And then we will single crochet in the back loop only of the next 2 stitches. Back loop only 1 and 2. Then we will half treble in the front loop only of the stitch 2 rounds below the next stitch. So yarn over twice. Here's our next stitch, 1 round below, 2 rounds below. And under that front loop only, pull up a loop, then yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 3 loops for a half treble, and then we will single crochet in both loops of the last 3 stitches. The last 3 stitches, both loops, 1, 2, and 3 single crochets. Now to join this round, because remember we started this round a little bit differently with a chain 2, insert your hook under the chain 2 space. Make sure all you're getting is the chain 2 space and you're not getting any other stitches. So just the chain 2 space, and slip stitch to it. So just the chain 2 space, make a slip stitch to that, pull it nice and tight, and that is round 8. To make round 9, we'll begin with a chain 1. The very first stitch we're going to make is going to be a puff stitch, and we're going to make the puff stitch in front of the chain space. So when you make this, you want to make sure you don't work over the chain space, you don't want to wrap it into your stitch. You want it to stay behind your stitch because we're going to use it later. So to make a puff stitch, yarn over once, and we're going to make this into the stitch one round below this chain space, which happens to be the treble 2 together. You can work into both loops of the treble 2 together. So yarn over once and insert your hook under not just the front loop only of the treble 2 together, but also the back loop, and pull up a loop. You're going to do that a total of 3 times. So yarn over once, insert your hook under both loops, and pull up a loop. Yarn over, insert your hook under both loops, not the chain space, just the 2 loops of the treble 2 together, and pull up a loop. There should be 7 loops on your hook there. You can count them if you want. It's not a big deal. After you have all 7 loops on your hook, you yarn over and pull through all 7. To complete your puff stitch, chain 1. And that's a puff stitch. The chain 1 counts as part of the stitch, does not count as a separate stitch. It's all part of the puff stitch. So that one puff stitch gets worked in front of the chain space and only counts as working for that stitch. The next thing we're going to do is single crochet in both loops of the next 3 stitches. The next 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3 single crochets in both loops. In the next stitch, we're going to single crochet in the back loop only. 1 single crochet in the back loop only. After that, we're going to half treble in the front loop only of the stitch 2 rounds below the next stitch. So yarn over twice for a half treble. Here's the next stitch, 1 round below, 2 rounds below. That's where you make your half treble. After that, you have 2 stitches left. Into each of them, single crochet in the back loop only. 1 and 2. That should take you to your corner. Make your corner as usual. Single crochet, chain 2, and another single crochet. And now we'll look at a full side of round 9. First thing we do is single crochet in the back loop only of the first 2 stitches. 1 and 2. Now we'll half treble in the front loop only of the stitch 2 rounds below the next stitch. Yarn over twice for a half treble. Here's my next stitch, 1 round below, 2 rounds below. In that front loop only is where I make my half treble. After that, in the next stitch, single crochet in the back loop only of just that 1 stitch. Next, we're going to single crochet in both loops of the next 3 stitches. So both loops, 1, 2, 3. Now, the next stitch should be the chain space. We're not going to work into the chain space. We're going to work into both loops of the treble 2 together, just underneath the chain space. That's where we're going to make a puff stitch. So yarn over once, insert your hook under just those 2 loops of the treble 2 together, keep the chain space behind your work, and pull up a loop. Yarn over again, insert your hook into that treble 2 together again, under both loops, pull up a loop. Do it one more time. Yarn over once, insert your hook under those 2 loops of the treble 2 together, and pull up a loop. Should be 7 loops on your hook at this point. Count them if you want, or just trust that they're all there because they should be pretty close together. Then yarn over and pull through all the loops on your hook. After that, chain 1. Remember, the chain 1 is part of your puff stitch. It does not count as a separate stitch. After that, single crochet in the back loop only of the next 3 stitches. So ignore the chain space behind the puff, and into the next stitch, into both loops of the next stitch, single crochet. Once, twice, and 3 times. 3 single crochets in both loops. In the next stitch, single crochet in the back loop only. Just 1 single crochet in the back loop only. Next, half treble in the front loop only of the stitch 2 rounds below the next stitch. So here's my next stitch. 1 round below is this bar, 2 rounds below is this bar. Under that front loop only, pull up a loop and make my half treble. In the last 2 stitches of the side, single crochet in the back loop only. And that should take you to your next corner. So I'll make my corner, and then we'll look at what we did. Okay, here's a full side of round 9. We started off with our corner, then we single crocheted in the back loop only of the first 2 stitches. The next thing we did was a half treble in the front loop only of the stitch 2 rounds below. Then we did a single crochet in the back loop only of the next stitch. So it's 2 back loop only, half treble, 1 back loop only. Then we did 3 single crochets into both loops. Then we made a puff stitch into both loops of the stitch 1 round below, which is the treble 2 together, in both loops of the stitch 1 round below, and we kept the chain space behind the puff stitch, so it's still back there and we can get to it later when we need to. Then we made 3 single crochets into both loops of the next 3 stitches. Then we made 1 single crochet in the back loop only of the next stitch, just 1 in the back loop only. So 3 into both loops, 1 into the back loop. Then we made a half treble in the front loop only of the stitch 2 rounds below the next stitch, and our last 2 stitches were 2 single crochets in the back loop only. Then we had another corner. So go ahead and do that again for the next 2 sides of round 9, and I will show you how to finish up the last side of round 9. To finish round 9, we'll make our last corner, single crochet and chain 2, and single crochet in that last corner chain 2 space. Then we will single crochet in the back loop only of the next 2 stitches. Back loop only, 2 single crochets. Then a half treble in the front loop only of the stitch 2 rounds below the next stitch. Here's our next stitch, 1 round below, 2 rounds below. Into that front loop only, make a half treble. Then single crochet in the back loop only of the next 1 stitch, just 1 single crochet in the back loop only, and then 3 single crochets in both loops. 1, 2, and 3 in both loops. After that, slip stitch to the top of the puff stitch. Just go ahead and under the top 2 loops of the puff stitch, here's the chain 1 that closes the puff stitch. Here's the 2 loops of the puff stitch. You can just go right under those 2 loops and pull it nice and tight. And that joins our round, and that is it for round 9. For round 10, we'll begin by chaining 1. Round 10 begins a little differently from other rounds too. The first stitch we're going to make is a double crochet, but as you can see, there's a puff stitch right here in front of us. We're going to make the double crochet behind the puff stitch into the chain space that's behind the puff stitch. So if you look at the back of your work, find the chain space behind the puff stitch. Into that chain space, make a double crochet. After that, single crochet in both loops of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3 single crochets in both loops. Then a double crochet in the front loop only of the stitch 1 round below the next stitch. 1 round below, front loop only, double crochet. Then single crochet in the back loop only of the next 4 stitches. Back loop only the next 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, and 4. That should take you to your corner. make your corner as usual, single crochet, chain 2, and single crochet. Now let's look at a full side of round 10. We're going to start by single crocheting in the back loop only of the first 4 stitches. So back loop only, 1, 2, 3, and 4. The 4th one should be in the half treble. Then we're going to double crochet in the front loop only of the stitch 1 round below the next stitch. So our next stitch and 1 round below is this half treble. So double crochet into that front loop only. Next, single crochet in both loops of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. Your very next stitch should be the puff stitch. So now we're going to double crochet into the chain 1 space that's behind the puff stitch. So look at the back of your work. Under the chain space behind the puff stitch, make your double crochet. Next, single crochet in both loops of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. Both loops of 3 stitches. Then double crochet in the front loop only of the stitch 1 round below the next stitch, which is the half treble. Double crochet the front loop only of the stitch 1 round below. Then single crochet in the back loop only of the next 4 stitches. Back loop only, 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, and 4 should take you to the very end of your side and your next corner. And now let's look at what we did. So full side of round 10, we made our corner, and then we did 4 single crochets in the back loop only. Then we did a double crochet in the front loop only of the stitch 1 round below. Then we did 3 single crochets into both loops. Then behind the puff stitch, into the chain 1 space that's behind the puff stitch, we made a double crochet. Then we made 3 single crochets in both loops. Then we made a double crochet in the front loop only of the stitch 1 round below. Then we made 4 single crochets in the back loop only. So you can kind of see what's going on here. These stitches, the dropped half trebles and double crochets, are framing the single crochets that are worked into both loops. So we're getting some different textures that are going to be framed by these stitches. And then you can also see the double crochet that fits behind the puff stitch helps push that puff stitch out. So you get a much rounder puff stitch, looks a little prettier. The double crochet behind it just gives it a little oomph. So that is a side of round 10. Go ahead and do that again on this side, and I'll show you how to finish up the last side of round 10. To finish up round 10, we'll make our last corner, single crochet, chain 2, single crochet in the corner chain 2 space, and then single crochet in the back loop only of the next 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Next, double crochet in the front loop only of the stitch 1 round below the next stitch. Double crochet. Then in the last 3 stitches, single crochet into both loops. 1, 2, and 3 in both loops. Then we can slip stitch to the top 2 loops of that very first double crochet to join our round 10. Pull our slip stitch tight, and that is round 10. Now for round 11. Round 11 is a very easy round. It just requires a little bit of counting. So to start, chain 1, and we're going to single crochet in both loops of the first 4 stitches. So both loops, 1, 2, 3, and 4. After that, we're going to single crochet in the back loop only of the next 6 stitches. So back loop only, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we did 4, we started with 4 single crochets in both loops, and then we did 6 single crochets in the back loop only. That takes us to our corner, so we'll make our regular single crochet, chain 2, and single crochet in the corner. Now let's look at a full side of round 11. So we'll start by making 6 single crochets in the back loop only. So back loop only, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 will land right in that double crochet right there. Now we're going to make 7 single crochets in both loops. So both loops, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. The very next stitch should be that double crochet on the other side. Now we're going to do 6 single crochets in the back loop only. So starting in that double crochet, back loop only, single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 should take you right up to your chain 2 space corner. I'll go ahead and make that and then we'll review. Okay, so full side of round 11 goes, here's our corner, then we did 6 single crochets in the back loop only, the 6th one landed in this double crochet, then we did 7 single crochets in both loops, then we did 6 single crochets, the first one went into this double crochet, 6 single crochets in the back loop only. So 6 back loop, 7 both loops, 6 back loops. Very simple. Go ahead and do that on the next 2 sides, and I'll show you how to finish up the last side of round 11. To finish round 11, we'll make our last corner in that last chain 2 space, single crochet, chain 2, and single crochet. Next, we're going to single crochet in the back loop only, of the next 6 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. The 6th one will be in that double crochet. In the last 3 stitches, we'll single crochet in both loops. 1, 2, and 3. Then to finish our round, we'll slip stitch to both loops of the very first single crochet. So join, pull that nice and tight, and that is round 11. For round 12, we'll start by chaining 1, and we're going to single crochet in both loops of the first 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and 3, just the first 3 stitches. Next, we're going to single crochet in the back loop only of the next 2 stitches. So 1 and 2 in the back loop only. Next, we're going to make a half treble in the front loop only of the stitch 2 rounds below the next stitch. So yarn over twice for a half treble. Next stitch, 1 round below, 2 rounds below is this half treble. So into that front loop only, make another half treble. Next, single crochet in the back loop only of the next 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That should take you to your corner. So single crochet in your corner, chain 2, single crochet again. Okay, let's look at a full side of round 12. We're going to start with single crochets in the next 5 stitches in the back loop only. Back loop only, 5 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now half treble in the front loop only of the stitch 2 rounds below the next stitch. So yarn over twice for a half treble. Here's my next stitch. 1 round below, 2 rounds below is the front loop only of this half treble. So under that front loop only, and pull up a loop to complete your half treble. Now single crochet in the back loop only of the next 2 stitches. 1 and 2. Now single crochet in both loops of the next 5 stitches. Okay, both loops, 5 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now single crochet in the back loop only of the next 2 stitches. 1 and 2. Now half treble in the front loop only of the stitch 2 rounds below the next stitch. So yarn over twice for a half treble. Here's my next stitch. 1 round below and 2 rounds below is this half treble. So under that front loop only, pull up a loop and make your half treble. Now single crochet in the back loop only of the next 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And that should take you right to your corner. Okay, let's take a look at what we did. So here's a full side of round 12. We did our corner, and then we did single crochets in the back loop only of the next 5 stitches. Then we did a half treble in the front loop only of the stitch 2 rounds below the next stitch, which happened to be this half treble. Then we did single crochets in the back loop only of the next 2 stitches. Then we did single crochets in both loops of the next 5 stitches. Then we did single crochets in the back loop only of the next 2 stitches. Then we did a half treble in the front loop only of the stitch 2 rounds below the next stitch. That front loop happened to belong to this half treble. Then we did single crochets in the back loop only of the last 5 stitches of the side and our next corner. So that is a full side of round 12. Go ahead and repeat that over here on this next side and then this side, and then I will catch up with you over here and we will look at how to finish out that last side of round 12. To finish round 12, we'll make our last corner, single crochet, chain 2, and single crochet in the corner chain 2 space. And then we will single crochet in the back loop only of the next 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then we'll half treble in the front loop only of the stitch 2 rounds below the next stitch. So yarn over twice for a half treble. Next stitch, 1 round below, 2 rounds below. Under that front loop only, make our half treble. Then we will single crochet in the back loop only of the next 2 stitches. 1 and 2. Then we will single crochet into both loops of the last 2 stitches. 1, 2. That should put you right at your first stitch, which you can then slip stitch to both loops of your first stitch to join. pull that tight, and that is round 12. Now for round 13, we'll start by chaining 1. Round 13 is very similar to round 12, almost identical, just some of the counts of the stitches are a little bit different. So we're going to start by single crocheting in both loops of the first 2 stitches, both loops, 1 and 2. Next, we're going to single crochet in the back loop only of the next 2 stitches, back loop only, 1 and 2. Next, we're going to half treble in the front loop only of the stitch 2 rounds below the next stitch. So yarn over twice for a half treble. Here's our next stitch, 1 round below and 2 rounds below happens to be the front loop only of this double crochet. So under the front loop only, make your half treble. Next, single crochet in the back loop only of the next 7 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. That should take you right to your corner. Make your corner as usual, single crochet, chain 2, single crochet. After that, we're going to, now we're going to look at a full side of round 13. So we'll start by single crocheting in the back loop only of the next 7 stitches. So back loop only, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and number 7 should go in the back loop of the half treble. Next, we'll half treble in the front loop only of the stitch 2 rounds below the next stitch. So yarn over twice for a half treble. Here's the next stitch, 1 round below and 2 rounds below happens to be the front loop only of this double crochet. So into that, I'll make my half treble. Okay, next up, we're going to single crochet in the back loop only of the next 2 stitches. So just 2, 1 and 2 in the back loop only. Now we're going to single crochet into both loops of the next 3 stitches. So both loops, 1, 2, 3. Now single crochet in the back loop only of the next 2 stitches. 1 and 2. Now, half treble in the front loop only of the stitch 2 rounds below the next stitch. So yarn over twice for my half treble. Here's the next stitch, 1 round below and 2 rounds below is this double crochet. So into the front loop only of that double crochet is where I'll make my half treble. Then all I need to do is single crochet in the back loop only of the last 7 stitches. The first one will be right into this half treble from last round. 7 in the back loop only. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Should take you right to your next corner. I'll make my corner real fast and then we'll look at this. Okay, so a full side of round 13. We made our corner and then we did 7 single crochets in the back loop only. The 7th one landed in this half treble. Then we made a half treble in the front loop only of the stitch 2 rounds below, which happened to be the front loop only of this double crochet. Then we made 2 single crochets in the back loop only. Then we made 3 single crochets into both loops. Then we made 2 single crochets in the back loop only. So 2 back loop, 3 both loops, 2 back loops. Then we made a half treble in the front loop only of the stitch 2 rounds below, which happened to be the front loop of this double crochet. Then we made 7 single crochets in the back loop only. The first one started in this half treble, and the last one was in the last stitch. It took us right to our corner. So that is a full side of round 13. Go ahead and do that again on this side, and I'll meet you down here, and we will finish up this last side of round 13. To finish the last side of round 13, we'll make our last corner, single crochet, chain 2, single crochet in the chain 2 space. Next, we'll single crochet in the back loop only of the next 7 stitches. Back loop only, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 lands in that half treble. The next stitch we'll make is a half treble into the front loop only of the stitch 2 rounds below the next stitch. Here's our next stitch, 1 round below and 2 rounds below is the front loop only of this double crochet. So into that we'll make our half treble. Next, we will single crochet in the back loop only of the next 2 stitches. Back loop only, 1 and 2. Our last stitch is a single crochet into both loops. A single crochet in both loops. And that's it. Then we can join by slip stitching to both loops of the first single crochet. Pull that slip stitch tight, and that is round 13. Now for round 14. This round and round 15 are going to be very easy because all of our single crochets will now be in the back loop only. So you don't have to worry about switching back and forth between both loops and back loop anymore. So we'll start by chaining 1, and we're going to single crochet in the back loop only of the first 3 stitches. Back loop only, 1, 2, and 3. Next, we're going to half treble in the front loop only of the stitch 2 rounds below the next stitch. So yarn over twice, and here's our next stitch. Here's 1 round below, and here's 2 rounds below. You'll notice that the front loop only of that one is showing because that's where we started trimming up our single crochets that go into both loops, and we started making less of them so that we have these front loops to work into. So into that one, in that front loop only, we'll make our half treble. Now all you need to do is single crochet in the back loop only of the next 9 stitches. Starting with that half treble, that's where your first one goes. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. That should bring you to your corner, and in the chain 2 space make your normal single crochet, chain 2, single crochet corner. Now we'll do a full side of round 14. We'll start with 9 single crochet in the back loop only. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 will land in the half treble. And now we're going to make a half treble in the front loop only of the stitch 2 rounds below the next stitch. So yarn over twice. Here's the next stitch, 1 round below and 2 rounds below is where we'll make our half treble. Then we'll single crochet in the back loop only of the next 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Oops, that one didn't go so well, hold on. And 5, there we go. Now we're going to half treble in the front loop only of the stitch 2 rounds below the next stitch. Yarn over twice for half treble. Here's my next stitch, 1 round below and 2 rounds below. Under that front loop only, make my half treble. Next, single crochet in the back loop only of the next 9 stitches. Starting in this next stitch is the half treble. That's where the first one goes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Should take you right to your corner, chain 2 space. Make my corner, and then we'll look at a full side of round 14. Okay, here's a full side of round 14. We did our corner, and then we did 9 single crochets in the back loop only. The last one landed in this half treble. Then we did a half treble in the front loop only of the stitch 2 rounds below the next stitch. Then we did 5 single crochets in the back loop only. Then we did another half treble in the front loop only of the stitch 2 rounds below the next stitch. And then we finished up the side with 9 single crochets in the back loop only. So that is a full side of round 14. You can do that again on this side and then on this side, and I will see you down here and we will finish up this last side of round 14. To finish round 14, we'll make our last corner, single crochet, chain 2, and single crochet in the chain 2 space. And then we'll single crochet in the back loop only of the next 9 stitches. Back loop only. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and number 9 lands in this half treble. Okay, next up we're going to half treble in the front loop only of the stitch 2 rounds below the next stitch. So half treble, and then here's the next stitch, here's 1 round below, and here's 2 rounds below the next stitch. Into that front loop only, we'll make our half treble. Finally, we'll single crochet in the back loop only of the last 2 stitches. 1 and 2, and then we can slip stitch to both loops of the very first stitch to join. Pull that slip stitch nice and tight, and that is round 14. To make round 15, we're going to start by chaining 1. The very first stitch we're going to make is a double crochet in the front loop only of the stitch 1 round below the very first stitch. So 1 round below the very first stitch into the front loop only, a double crochet. Now let's make another double crochet in the front loop only of the stitch 1 round below the next stitch. So next stitch 1 round below in the front loop only. Next we'll make a half treble in the front loop only of the stitch 2 rounds below the next stitch. So yarn over twice for a half treble. Here's my next stitch. 1 round below and 2 rounds below. In that front loop only, my half treble. After that, all you need to do is single crochet in the back loop only of the next 11 stitches. So the next stitch is this half treble, into the back loop only, 11 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. That should take you right to your corner. Make your normal corner, single crochet, chain 2, single crochet. Okay, now let's do a full side of round 15. We're going to start with 11 single crochets in the back loop only. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 will land in the half treble right there. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to make a half treble in the front loop only of the stitch 2 rounds below the next stitch. So yarn over twice for a half treble. Here's my next stitch, here's 1 round below, and here's 2 rounds below under that front loop only, and I'll make my half treble. Now I'm going to make a double crochet in the front loop only of the stitch 1 round below the next stitch. Double crochet, here's my next stitch, 1 round below, double crochet, and I'm going to do that 3 times total. So that was 1, I'm going to do another double crochet 1 round below the next stitch, and 2, and then another double crochet 1 round below the next stitch after that, and that's 3. So you see they went through those front loops only 1, 2, 3 right next to each other. After that I'm going to make a half treble in the front loop only of the stitch 2 rounds below. So yarn over twice for a half treble. Here's my next stitch, 1 round below, 2 rounds below, under that front loop only, half treble. After that, I just need to single crochet in the back loop only of the next 11 stitches. So starting with the next stitch is this half treble. That's 1 in the back loop only, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 should take you right to your corner. Let me make my corner real fast, and then we'll look at a full side of round 15. Okay, so here's what we did in round 15. We made our corner, and then we made 11 single crochets in the back loop only. The very last one landed in this half treble. Then we made a half treble in the front loop only of the stitch 2 rounds below. Then we made a double crochet in the front loop only of the stitch 1 round below the next stitch. We did that 3 times, so 1 double crochet, 2, 3. Then we did a half treble in the front loop only of the stitch 2 rounds below the next stitch. Then we did 11 single crochet in the back loop only. The first one went into this half treble, and the last one went into the last stitch of the side. So that's a full side of round 15. Go ahead and do that over here and down here, so repeat it twice, and then I will show you how to finish up that last side of round 15. To finish the last side of round 15, we'll make our last corner in the chain 2 space, single crochet, chain 2, and single crochet in the chain 2 space. Now we are going to single crochet in the back loop only of the next 11 stitches. So back loop only, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 will land in the half treble. Next, we're going to make a half treble in the front loop only of the stitch 2 rounds below the next stitch. So I'll yarn over twice, and here's my next stitch. 1 round below and 2 rounds below is this front loop only. Into that front loop, I'll make my half treble. My very last stitch for round 15 is a double crochet in the front loop only of the stitch 1 round below the next stitch. So here's my next stitch, and 1 round below, a double crochet. After that, I can slip stitch to both loops of the very first double crochet to join, pull that tight, and that is my round 15. Now we're going to finish up our square with round 16. We're going to chain 1, and we're going to single crochet in both loops of each stitch across to the corner. Both loops, single crochet all the way across to the corner. Single crocheting in both loops just gives us a nice sturdy edge, which is perfect for joining our squares later. Okay, so we single crochet in both loops of each stitch across to the next corner. In the corner chain 2 space, we'll make our normal single crochet, chain 2, and single crochet again. Next, we will single crochet across the full side in both loops of each stitch. Single crochet in both loops of each stitch across to the next corner. When you get to the next corner, make your normal corner again, and then do that all the way around to your last corner. When you get to the second half of that first side, go ahead and single crochet in both loops of each stitch across to your very first stitch, and then you can slip stitch to your first stitch to join and fasten off. And that is the end of your square called Just One of Those Things. I really hope you enjoyed making this square. I hope you enjoyed the video and that it was helpful. Thank you so much for watching and for participating in the crochet along. I'm really enjoying crocheting along with you. I hope you have fun, and I will see you for the next square.